Hey, Print Hustlers. It's Steven from Campus Inc. Today we have a very special episode. Bruce is traveling right now, and we are going to talk a little bit about what I am doing this spring with Roland. We're putting a DTF machine in a trailer and taking it across the country. So I brought Daniel in from Roland to talk a little bit about it. And what's most interesting is he's been in the industry for a minute. He's seen the DTG world come and go. He was influential in helping Roland come out with a piece of equipment that we're going to talk about today. And we're actually going to talk about the things that could potentially go wrong with DTF machines and what you should watch out for. Obviously, DTF is a super hot topic in our industry, and we hope you enjoy it. But first, let's hear from our sponsors. Our sponsors are incredible. They help us out every single week to put this podcast on. So first and foremost, we have Graphic Source. If you need a solution to improve efficiency and reduce costs in your art department, hit up Graphic Source. They offer industry-leading outsource options for your shop by truly becoming a part of your team. They plug and play with Printavo and other shop management software. And when it comes to SEPs, mockups, creative art, order management, embroidery, digitizing, they have over 40 years in the game. They really know and understand shop needs. They have a proven track record of success. They run our art department. They handle all of our SEPs. They live in our Printavo. Hit up Graphic Source. You can get 50% off your first vector, SEP, or embroidery order. They will absolutely be at Long Beach. Easy Way is launching a new giveaway to give back to their amazing customers. Each month, they're giving away a $250 prize, and it's super easy to enter. You can go to easyway.com/giveaway. Make reclaiming screens a whole lot easier with Easyway systems and chemicals. Enter their giveaway. Go check them out at Long Beach. We use Easyway products every single day. If you don't know, you know now. Have you heard of Multicraft_Daddy? If you need ink supplies or a daddy, Multicraft screen printing and digital supplies for over 50 years has been providing you with top brands at competitive prices. If you mention the Printavo podcast, you'll receive an extra 10% off your order. Dave gives away a free case of PMI tape for every episode. All you have to do is go to his Instagram, Multicraft_Daddy, follow, look at all of his corny videos, and shoot him a note. And he'll enter you in for a drawing. This is for new customers only, but give Dave a follow. If you're ready to take your custom apparel to the next level, you should definitely check out Stalls. Stalls is the leader in heat printing solutions. Whether you're a small business just starting out or an established brand that's scaling up, Stalls makes the hustle easy. They're here so you can simply heat press and profit. I've been developing a new patch line for headwear, and I've been using Stalls. I've been specifically using some of their new PVC like the silicone patches that have been incredible. Whether you're, looking to do DTF patches, order twill, you name it, hit up Stalls. You can save 20% on your next DTF transfer order using the code Hustler20. They will absolutely be at Long Beach. We appreciate you, Stalls. All right, let's hop on into the episode. Hey, Print Hustlers, it's Steven from Campus Inc. today. Bruce is traveling. We have an incredibly special guest, Daniel Vlad from Roland, Senior Product Specialist. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Steven.
I'm usually a troublemaker in the DTF world.
I'm used to dealing with troublemakers.
Yeah. And I've been through a handful of machines. And Roland is working together with me and Campus Inc. to install a new DTF machine, which just arrived a couple weeks ago. And we're going to put it in a trailer and try to take it on the road.
Yeah, it seems legitimate.
So we're going to talk all about that today. We're going to be at Long Beach together on a panel. So I guess, Daniel, just give us your background a little bit on, your experience. What do you do?
Like you said, you introduced me. I'm the senior product manager at Roland here. I've been with the company for 20 years, or 18 years in the business, 20 years. And I've had experience with every type of digital printing technology, all the way from small vinyl cutters all the way up to our grand format scale type of stuff, and specialty products too. Apparel has always been my favorite part of all the different applications that we do. I've actually had a small apparel company that myself and my daughter ran for a little while here, and now she's taking that over. But yeah, I've always had a special spot for apparel. I'm a big t-shirt guy myself. A lot of people collect shoes and are sneakerheads. I'm a t-shirt guy. I collect a lot of t-shirts and things like that. So, but yeah, been in the industry a long time. I've seen it all. Excited for this project, especially because it presents a new challenge that, with you guys getting a little bit crazy and loading this up into a trailer, and it presents a whole lot of new challenges that I've not faced before, but I'm always up for a challenge, and it seems like you are as well. So
what's your favorite blank as a t-shirt junkie? What's your favorite blank?
That's a loaded question because as the Roland guy, I partner with quite a few folks, but we are a big Sanmar folks here, and we do use a lot of Next Level, which we will see at the Impression show. There's actually some new blanks that are coming out that you guys will see that we're printing on at the show. So it's kind of a surprise, as we'll see. So we'll see a cross promotion between all three companies.
Cool. We love everyone. So let's talk a little bit about Roland's position in the apparel industry, right? Because I think about direct to garment printing, and I bought DTG machines, not from Roland, or Roland didn't. Can you talk to us a little bit about, did Roland ever try to make a DTG machine?
Yeah, actually, I worked with, there's a couple of manufacturers out there. There's a couple of manufacturers that are very close to where Anajet and that are close to here where we're at in Irvine, California. And we went through the DTG process, and it's as dirty as a application as DTF can be. DTG was by far and away, a very time consuming and to try to keep machines running at a level that Roland would expect on a day-to-day basis. Very little manual interference to start your day. We don't want our printers being techs to get their printers up and running. And it seems like in the DTG world, especially 5-6 years ago when we were looking to do something like that, there was a lot of pre-day maintenance. No matter which machine that I evaluated, it seemed like if I left a machine for overnight and there was no recirculation or something along those lines, it was an hour to get started in the morning before I could ever do my first print. And that's just not something that Roland users, coming from our EcoSol world, I think that you have a VG somewhere in your ecosystem. That's just, you walk up to that machine and it's always ready to go. It doesn't matter if it's been down for 3 days or a week. And we had a hard time finding a DTG device that would be at that level.
Yeah. Talk to us about that. How hard was it to say no? To be like, okay, we are one of the biggest print manufacturers of equipment here, but we're not going to really go into the DTG space. What was that like?
So that's one of the weird parts of my job, right? Usually I try to find out what the advantages are for everything, and I train everybody on how to sell against competition. Sometimes my job is to say, this is not a product for us at this time or whatever it is. And it's not just been DTG, but DTG specifically. And you have folks that are saying, well, wait, we see the DTG market it's not tailing off, it's growing. We want to be a part of that growth. Sometimes when you're joined into something that's growing like that, though, and you have a stellar reputation for reliability, and like I said, that I walk up to my machine and get it going, bringing something like that into our ecosystem and us being very new to it, it was a big risk, right, as well, because now I have somebody who has one of those super reliable VG machines or one of our other machines, and then one of these DTG devices that requires a little bit more manual interference just on the nature of the type of machine that it is, the type of ink, right? Pigment inks tend to be a little bit heavier than eco-solvent inks. The pigments are a little bit larger, that type of thing. For me to write a business plan that says why we should not enter the DTG market was just as challenging as it would be to bring something new like that on.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And it's like, you kind of let the other guys say, okay, you're going to let them take it, and that's okay. That's super hard to do. That's like a very mature, there's like a lot of wisdom there. Now let's transition to the DTF world. So like DTF machines have been around for a minute. I actually remember printing on HTV vinyl that you could heat apply. So you could, right? Was it that stuff? When DTF dropped and you started getting word about it, talk to us about what that was like for you, specifically from the lens of you at Roland, being the monsters that you are, and how big of a company it was. What was that like for you?
So, it didn't just dump into our lap all of a sudden one day that, we started seeing DTF. We saw the transition, and we have business units in emerging markets. So sometimes what's happening in the US or the North American market, Roland DGA is North and South America. Everything excluding Brazil is our territory here. What happens in our territory doesn't always mirror what's happening in someplace like Pan Asia or China, for example. So we started seeing, you mentioned HTV a little while ago, and HTV for our eco-solvent printers, everything from our little 20-inch BN device all the way up to our big 64-inch devices, our number one selling media for 3 years was our HTV vinyl. We had 3 or 4 different kinds. We started seeing in some of the emerging markets, like let's use China, for example, where we see here's how much HTV is being used. And then that dramatically started to shift because of the less manual labor that's needed, weeding, masking, that type of things that we saw. And we started seeing that in those emerging markets first. So we kept a close eye on China, India, places like that, where the transitions can happen a lot faster, right? People will buy less expensive equipment to get a new application out. So that's where we really first started seeing it. We didn't jump right into it at that point, though. We waited to kind of see how it was going to fall out. But what really drove us going into DTF was data. And that data was HTV is going to go away at some point. The data from emerging markets is really what kind of started us to shift. So 3 years before we actually brought DTF on, we saw that shift coming as sales in China started to see HTV really decrease and DTF increasing. While that wasn't happening yet in the US, we knew that's coming. That trend always follows those emerging markets when it comes to that. So we started planning, and we started out with a very small unit. Literally, one of the first units was me taking one of our small BN devices and just plumbing it with DTF ink and, running it just to see if we could jet the ink out before we ever created a device. And about a year later, that's when we came out with our first BN20D device, which was not ideal. It was an eco-solvent device converted to be a DTF unit. We learned our lesson there, and we created a new device, our BY20, with a focus on DTF. So using a combination of inks and film and powder that were all designed together, which is kind of the first in the market, right? Everybody is usually buying powder from someplace, film from someplace. Third-party ink is huge in the industry, but to have a total solution so nobody can point the finger at anybody else, right? You can't say, oh, well, your powder doesn't work with that ink, or that ink doesn't work with that film, or whatever it is. We point the finger at, we take on the responsibility for the full application if you're using all of that. But that's really where we saw the transition is. We saw HTV. We know that apparel is going to be popular. We saw HTV dropping, and we knew that we needed to get into the market with DTF.
And so the Roland printer that you guys just came out with, it's the Roland TY300. That's the piece of equipment we just got, which looks like other DTF machines. When you saw the Chinese machines coming out, and they were coming out fast and hard. And I think if you went to Long Beach 3 years ago, there wasn't a booth that didn't. It was how many booths have a DTF machine right now? You guys came out with this almost later, you kind of let everyone else kind of do their thing. And now you're kind of coming to market. Was that calculated, or was it just you wanted to innovate enough to really get one out there? Because it's not to say you guys don't have the bandwidth, the capacity, the ammo to do it. What was that like, and what was the rationale behind it?
Well, we wanted to assure that, like I said earlier, that we didn't release a product like something that would have been a DTG device, where we tried to force it into the market and then try to make it work into the market. We did a lot of research. Before the printer came out, I had a device here nearly a year beforehand. That I have other counterparts like me around the world that did the same thing. And we don't stop there. As Roland, we have a competitive lab. So we don't go onto the internet and find out about these machines. We put our hands on every machine that there is, and we find out what the good, the bad, and the ugly is for everything. And then we try to put all of that knowledge into something. And sometimes, you want to be everybody wants the fastest printer with the highest resolution and the best stability. When you go faster, it's hard to make something go faster and still have the same quality, right? The faster you go tends to lower the DPI. So you try to find all these balances, and it takes a long time when you're entering into the market, and you want to have a product that's at the level that Roland DGA expects our devices to be at.
So what were some of the things, if you can critique, I call them the Chinese machines, but essentially what are the ones that everyone has painted a different color and give it a name of a creature? What are the things that you really saw that were glaring issues that you're no, we need to solve this, or we need to solve this? What were some of those things?
Yeah, so early on, some of those early, like you said, we'll say Chinese machines, even though 5 or 6 companies use the same machine with a different color shell, just like you said, was that startup reliability. You're jetting a lot of ink when you're doing DTF. Every pixel of art has some level of white ink underneath it, which is unlike, most other applications, whether it's UV or eco solvent. Generally, you're not jetting quite that much ink. And as we start to see, again, I don't want our users to be technicians to where they're having to get syringes out in the morning, syringe ink to the cap tops, or suck ink through the cap tops to get started, and that be part of the written manual, to get the day started for the day. We want our printers printing, so we try to automate everything. Our ink circulation system is automated. Our maintenance is automated. Outside of a couple of manual minutes each day at the startup and at the end of the day, we try to keep everything automated so that there's very few mistakes that can be made. But that said, just like any other DTF device, even though it's far more reliable, maintenance, and environment. Those are the big things for DTF.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't have a DTF or hasn't gotten one, you basically have to become a technician on these things. Meaning, like, for the 7 or 8 machines that have been through our facility, we've replaced all of the print heads. We've replaced main boards. We've been having to pull ink. There's a software that you use called like Hosan Soft, and CADLink runs with it. And so you have to know how to replace everything: tubes, lines, dampers, you name it. And I think the earlier the machines, you would wake up. I'm in some Facebook groups, and some of the things that happen, they're like, my printer is printing all black today, and there's crazy lines coming out, or my printer is doing this. And so I've seen a lot of like battle scars in the space. You talked about maintenance. When you guys installed the machine and Jim came, Jim from Boston, he's got an awesome accent. He walked me through maintenance. And what was actually really cool is the machine came with, once you power the machine on, it'll be like, open the left cover. The head will come out. Go get the pipette and wipe this 4 times. Close the cover. And so it does a lot of its own cleaning and maintenance, because I think, not everyone can be a tech. From the printer itself, though, what would a user need to be able to do? Like, how tech savvy do they need to be to actually run it?
We try to have our users not have to be technicians. I mean, you're always going to want to be able to change, in the world of DTF printing. Again, we'll talk about the ink a little bit. You're using a water-based pigment ink. Those pigments are a little bit heavier to get that density that has to be transferred onto a t-shirt. So yeah, you have a little bit more often that you're going to change the cap tops. And for those of folks that are, print nerds like I am, the cap tops are where the print head comes over and seals whenever it's not printing it in. It keeps the print head life longer, and it keeps the ink flowing through. Those get dirty over time. And when you're printing as much white ink as you are with DTF, remember I said every pixel of CMYK has some sort of white underneath it almost 100% of the time. We'll say 99.9% of the time. So you're printing almost twice as much ink as you would in a traditional EcoSol or UV environment. So things like that, but that's a couple of screws. Well, and again, that scenario where you said, hey, it walks me through, open the left cover, wipe 4 times. Same thing when we change a cap top. You say, I'm going to change the cap top, and it's going to walk you through. Open the cover. Print head moves over to the left, and it walks you through step by step and close it up. And we've tried to make it as easy as possible for that. But that's about as involved as you have to get. We don't have users changing print heads. Talk about reliability just a little bit and what differentiates Roland from I don't want this to be a Roland commercial, but one of the things that really does differentiate, and one of the things that I think is very important, is we don't have like asterisks on our warranty. So when we say, hey, we have a warranty, it's not a warranty excluding print head. Like a lot of the folks out there, they expect the print head to be changed every 6 months. We don't. We use very high quality print heads. And when you're using Roland ink, we have a very high quality ink. So the machine itself uses about half the ink of most other DTF machines out there. So the amount of ink you use per print is nearly 50% of the other. There's 2 other major manufacturers out there right now doing DTF. And one of the things that we definitely are doing better than them is how much it costs for us to make per transfer. And at Impressions, we're going to really, really, really talk about that with our ROI center. We'll have people there that will say, hey, here's how much it costs to make a t-shirt, and here's how many you can make.
Yeah. Cause that is what's funny is as I told my friends about this, I'm like, hey guys, I'm doing this thing and Roland, I'm going to get a Roland. And they're like, of course you are. Cause I want everything new. And they're like, hey, the ink's expensive, right? Like you have to buy consumables through that. And so is what and the ink is in pouches. It's not like in the bottles the same way, but you guys very much control that. Can you talk a little bit more about like how the distribution network works with supplies? Cause when I bought my DTF machine, I bought ink from one place and then that place went out of business and I had to buy powder from one place. How do the consumables, for someone that has never worked with Roland, has never had a VG540 or any of that stuff, how are consumables sold in the industry through Roland?
Yeah, that's another big differentiator for us is, we've been doing digital print for over 35 years, and we have developed a extensive dealer network. So when you're purchasing a Roland, we're not doing direct sales. We're selling through authorized dealers who are the face of Roland when they're doing that. They come out here before they can sell the devices, train on all aspects of the device, whether from applications all the way through service. And those are the same folks that come out to install your machine are the same folks that you're going to be buying all of your supplies. And like I said earlier, if you're using Roland products, all of those Roland products are bought through one person. So you're not going to dtfshop.com for powder and then dtfpowder.com for dtffilm.com for your film. You're buying everything from one place. So kind of a one-stop shop.
Obviously you need to get Roland ink and you should use their ink. What about powder and film though?
Yeah. So we tested all kinds of other films, and at Impressions, we'll be using a new hot peel film that we've just recently come out with. We have a lot of folks that use third-party film, but the film that we have with the powder and the ink, like I said, they have all been developed together. So the Roland systems are going to be a little bit more reliable. I'll give an example. Is I do have folks that are using some third-party films. They were already printing DTF. They've got 7 or 8 rolls of it. They're not going to throw it away. They need to get it through the printer. They started printing and they're using all of the settings that they would use for the Roland film. And, it was pooling or had other areas. And first thing that people are going to want to blame is the thing that they paid $20,000 for, right? The printer. All right, your printer's not working because it's, I've printed on this film before. What really, and that's the first thing that I ask, and I'm like, all right, so can we take that film out and put the Roland film in, print, and see if we still have the same problem? No, okay, it's printing fine. All right, so we know that it's not the printer because we're printing fine on the Roland film. It's curing fine with the Roland powder. Now let's figure out how to use this new film because there's 1,000 films out there, so we can't, and there's all these different environments. It's very difficult to have, without being able to control what powder, what film, and what ink they're using. It's very difficult to make sure that everything is as reliable and control that environment.
So it's not to say it won't work on other film, but choose your own adventure there. Like, it's not tested. And so like in our facility, we have right now 4 other machines and the Roland. And so we did I'm going to just say I put my own film in there and I wanted to see how it would work. And it worked. It actually worked beautifully. Like I was like, okay, that's cool. Now the Roland prints 30 inches wide instead of 20, the 24 inch. So you can put wider media on it, which is pretty rad. But can you talk a little bit about the software, the RIP? How does that work for someone that might know a little bit about DTF and CAD-Link and all that, or has never used it before?
Yeah, sure. So we have our own designs, everything from design software, and we have our own RIP software. VersaWorks is, probably the most popular RIP in the entire planet, and that's because we've given it away free with every device for the last 30 years. So it's really stable, it's powerful, and it's easy to use. However, it's not the greatest for DTF when we first came out with it. In the DTF world, people don't really use PDF files and these other vector-based files, and that's what we've always used, and that's what VersaWorks is based around. It's a natural PDF, native PDF processor, and it also has a PostScript engine as well. But handling PNGs, which the DTF world was transparencies and things like that, we had a little bit of a learning curve on there. That said, we work with all of those third-party software companies, Flexi, CAD-Link, as you mentioned, can all drive TY300 too. So if you've been using DTF for a long time and you're looking to change your engine, but hey, I'm not trying to change my entire workflow. I don't want to train somebody on brand new software. We partner with all those folks. We give them software development kits so that by the time the machine launches, we're supported by all those third-party softwares as well. And we've also made some tremendous updates to VersaWorks, specifically in the world of DTF, and handling those PNGs and one click for transparencies and things like that.
Yeah. So for anyone that when you're in VersaWorks or CADLink, things that you're changing are like the white concentration under black, right? And because you don't want to print you don't want to jet a ton of white ink. And so you can go and you can bring that down and throttle it, right? You can also change like the choke level, the vibrancy. You can do like spot color changes if you want. So there is a lot of but you want to try and standardize it as much as you possibly can. But it is definitely like a small learning curve. I used VersaWorks on the VG540 for several years, printing sign and banners. So like the transition, I was like, oh, cool, they have this button now. They have this button. But it's good to know that you could use CADLink with it or any of the other ones that are coming out.
Yeah. So people always ask me even if it's not DTF, people always ask me, hey, what's the best design software? What's the best rip? And of course, with VersaWorks, you're getting the best output possible. So even if you're designing in something else, not using our design software, the output, because of the output profiles that we've created specifically for VersaWorks, specifically to the TY300, our color gamut, a lot of folks design in CMYK because the printer is only CMYK. We have output profiles that encompass all sRGB. So if you're designing in CMYK, you handcuff yourself to these colors that VersaWorks would naturally map to, right? So you have a much wider gamut than CMYK, even though you've only got those 4 colors. A lot of times when you use those third-party rips, they're using very standard output profiles like, swap or something like that, or a standard CMYK. I kind of use the frisbees. The VersaWorks gives you a really big frisbee to work with, where a traditional CMYK gamut is only going to be like this. You get this really big color gamut.
So if anyone's designing for DTF, should you be in RGB? Is that the standard?
I design almost everything in RGB, and I let the rip, and that's because I'm so used to VersaWorks, and I let the rip do its job. So if I'm somewhere outside of gamut, I don't want to handcuff myself by having CMYK, but the RIP software will say, all right, hey, I'm going to map that to as close as I possibly can. And in VersaWorks, you can go in and look and see how close you are to that color. And like you said, with one click, I could say, you know what, that's not quite coming in the right color. I'm going to add a little bit of black to that to darken it up, or a little bit of yellow to lighten it up.
Can you talk about color profiling? Say I were to open my Adobe Illustrator, use the Pantone swatch, I don't know, coded or uncoded or whichever one, and I were to do 10 or 15 colors. How close would the Roland actually get to hitting those Pantones on first try? Talk to us about color profiling and how that works.
Yeah, so color profiling is, and with DTF is a little bit more of a challenge, because ultimately you're not with, an EcoSol or UV device, you're printing onto that substrate, and that's what you're profiling into. When you're doing DTF, we're printing to a film. We're adding an extra, powder to the backside of it, and then we're transferring, we're adding heat, and we're putting to a t-shirt. So color profiling for DTF is a little bit different than it is for traditional eco-solvent and things like that. That said, when you're printing Pantone colors out, and you're going to do a swath of them, like you said, typically for DTF, we're well into the 90% for Pantone coverage. And that's basically, they don't do every single color when they do a test like that, but they put, 5,000 colors down, and then they gauge where you hit with that. With our eco-solvent devices, we're like at 98. And with our DTF device, we're somewhere close to 90%. So it all depends on what the color is.
Do you lose vibrancy? Like, I know with another large manufacturer that came out with a DTF machine that we tried, the prints just came out like dull. How, talked about vibrancy. Can you get fluorescence? How does that work?
A lot of folks wonder how we do some of the output that we get. Like when we go to a show and we have our samples hanging, we have this one astronaut. I wish I had one, but it was in my hands right now, that one of our application specialists came up with, and they thought that we had another machine that we had used that had fluorescent inks, because the boundaries of color are really pushed on it. And it's just still our CMYK. And a lot of that still comes from that output profile I was talking about, our true rich color. It's a roll-in wide gamut. We've plugged that in, and it is the single widest gamut in the market for any printer under $50,000 that's available. It's one of those things where the high quality ink that we have, not having to lay down, some of those other manufacturers are putting down so much white ink that it's really difficult to get really poppy, or that's what they call it in the other world, to get that pop that you're talking about, or that vibrancy that you see. If you're laying down so much white ink, it's really difficult to get that if just based on that thickness.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the, I want to get to the dryer that you guys sent me because it's freaking amazing. But I want to talk about, like, if I don't run the machine for several days, is that okay? Does the machine need to run every day? Like, we have to run our machines every day, no matter what. We are always doing nozzle tests. How much can that machine sit idle? For how long? What can happen? Talk us through that.
Yeah. Again, in the nature of DTF, any printer really, printers want to be printing. The more that they're printing, it's just like our heartbeat, right? We want to keep everything flowing as much as possible. When everything slows down, problems start to happen. That said, we've taken measures to make sure that the machine takes care of itself, automated as much as possible. So, for example, at night when you do your shutdown cleaning, so we talked about some of the maintenance, and I'm sure Jim trained you on, or the tech or somebody on shutdown cleaning. And when you do that, it basically shuts down the machine, so you're not doing any kind of waste overnight. Most machines wake up and are dumping ink all night long. So we go down and it shuts off for 8 hours. Now, if you don't come back and print, it's going to go back into its automated maintenance cycles, and it's going to try to keep itself going for as long as you can. We leave for trade shows all the time and have to leave our machine for 2 or 3 days. That little head refresher system that we were talking about, that says, hey, it comes out and you wipe the head. Usually with a startup cleaning and using that head refresher, if I'm gone for 2 or 3 days, I do one of those head refreshers, and then it runs its normal cleaning cycle, and I'm usually back up and running. That said, my environment is dialed in, so it was never got really hot or really cold in that room while the machine was sitting. So temperature hasn't been going up and down. Humidity has not been going up and down. It's been controlled the entire time with, a 1 or 2% in variance. That's what's really important. Now, your room drops down to 58 degrees in the middle of the night and it wants to wake up and do its recirculation. The viscosity of that ink is not going to move as freely being, so cold and maybe it's dry. So environment, keeping it stable is just as important as doing the maintenance.
Gotcha. So can we talk about the dryer that y'all sent me? And I don't think Roland's the manufacturer of the dryer.
We're not. We partnered with a company called DTF Station. They're local to us. The owners of the company have been in the even though DTF Station is new, this is going to be their first impression show. We're going to do some co-promoting with those guys as well. The great part about this dryer that you have is, one, it works fantastic, and it's kind of a no frills, right? It's here's the powder station. It's really small. Here's the drying station, and there's a take up. There's 3 buttons that you really have to worry about on the dryer itself. And that's, how fast do you want the beater to go? What do you want the preheat temperature to be? And what do you want the curing temperature to be when it gets to the oven? And that's it. And we kind of give you, hey, here's where you need to be on all 3 of those. So it's really a no-brainer. And the other part is power. Almost every other shaker on the market is, 220 with, 25 to 30 amps required, where this thing is broken down into 2 110s, 12 amps and 8 amps. So your trailer adventure is going to be a little easier to deal with as far as power goes. You're not going to have to worry about, drawing 30 amps of power for one device. And the other cool part is they have fantastic service and support for their own machines. So it's a great partnership. And like you said, it's an option. We do have another dryer. It's a large industrial one piece, has built-in filtration and all that kind of good stuff. But it's big and it's really designed for those industrial folks where, they're going to have 220 power, and over time, of course, it's going to be less costly to run that. But for the users that we have, they have really taken on to the Merrell 36, and we're happy to be a partner with DTF Station. And
my favorite part of the Merrell 36 is that it's a heating element. It's like a solid piece of metal. And it's not infrared bulbs like the traditional DTF dryers or, like a flash. It's basically like a flash unit, right? And so it doesn't put off smoke. It's super tight. And it heats it from the bottom. So it's like doing like a bottom cure. Am I saying that right? And so it's just like and the hand is completely different. This is like a first try I did on like a pretty hard print. And it felt like super, super good. So I was super impressed with the dryer. The other part I was impressed about was, the dryer came with all of these SOPs and QR codes, literally laminated, and you could just scan them and learn how to do it. So like DTF Station did something right there for sure.
They absolutely did. And that's one of the reasons why we partner with them is not only is the machine itself great, but we know that our customers, even because we can't control that, they're the folks that deal with the warranty and most of the support. If it's not a printing problem, they want to have the support. Is they offer the same level of support and maybe even a little bit better than us on the DTF side because they've been doing it for so long. Like you said, all these little QR codes of exactly what to do at each spot. It's their YouTube PlayStation is fantastic. So super happy that we partnered with them. Yeah, kudos to those guys.
And one of the things about exhaust, so in our DTF room right now, we've built an entire exhaust system in the ceiling where there's like a pipe that drops down over every machine. We got to deal with like oil that leak, the oil leaking or glycol or whatever it's called. Those dryers, we've probably replaced every part on them, from fuses to bulbs to belts to whatever. And so if you're thinking about a DTF, exhaust is a very important part because there's a lot of smoke that comes out of those things, and you need to be very, very careful and cautious. And so I was really impressed. And my business partner and I were like, well, crap, we should just run those for the rest of our machines. Okay, I want to talk about what I'm doing. So I'm putting a DTF machine in a trailer. I'm taking it around the country to different college campuses, and we are going to try hot market print on demand in real time. And it's going to be the middle of the winter. It's going to be February. When I told you guys about this idea, what were your initial thoughts?
I think when we had the initial conversation, I stayed quiet for about 10 minutes while you, Michelle, and everybody else were going around how great this was going to be. And me as the printer nerd in the background going, all right, well, let's just start with, this is a high precision device. This is not it's not a tank. The nozzles and, the picoliter drops that you're firing out of these things are so precise, and the calibrations are so tight. And you're putting it into a trailer and you're going hundreds of miles and the printer is shaking the whole time. Even if you put it into an air ride container, you're still going to have a lot of vibration and things like that. So is this printer going to work the same at the first stop as it is at the second stop? And then when they get it back home into the Illinois area, is again, all those different environments and all of that travel, all of that vibration. Those are going to be some challenges, calibrating the unit out of the box, and then getting to the point where, all right, now we've got the printer where we're going to be at the event. Where's that printer sitting? Is it still in the trailer? Is it out there in the, like you said, it's going to be in the winter, and it's in Arizona too, if I'm not mistaken.
We're going to be in Connecticut first.
Oh, Connecticut first. So that's fantastic. So yeah, obviously there's going to be some challenges with we talked about how important environment is, right? And especially in the middle of the night when the printer's not running. So when you go to start it the next day, you want to make sure that everything is running. So if it gets down really cold in that trailer or wherever that printer is, and then the next morning you're going to fire it up and it doesn't want to move, it's because, you could have frozen ink in there or some other problem. So, there are some challenges that we're going to have to think about for sure. And I think that we ran them by you is sometimes maybe you're going to have to think about, well, can I run this out of a trailer, or am I going to have to get a small, area where I can actually unload the printer from the trailer, put it into a room, and then for the 2 or 3 days that you're there using that room instead of trying to print out of a trailer. But those are going to be some of the challenges. And I think you're going to have to work through some of those beforehand too, while before the printer's actually moving.
Yeah. And so Roland delivered the printer probably right before Christmas. So we've been messing around with it. And my business partner, who's a fabricator and stuff, he's got these crazy shocks that like, it's basically like an air ride because the vibration and the print head, he's like, okay, these can't break. So they've like rigged up this whole thing so that it can absorb, because trailers don't have shocks. What's really interesting is when the machine got delivered on first try, we had a perfect nozzle test. And so Jim was like, 1 for 1, but then the other thing, so that was like step number 1. And so every time we move from place to place, the thing needs to be on this little air ride. Heads have to be locked, and hope we don't hit any potholes. The other part about it was humidity control, right? And so I was just in our warehouse this morning. They've taken all the walls of the trailer off. They're going to do foam insulate the floors because this thing can't freeze overnight. And then we also have to figure out how to keep it plugged in at night. So because we want it to clean, but we can't have our generators running. And so we're going to get, I think it's like Jackery that makes these like whole house batteries to run it off there. Now, thank God they're 110s. And then, we have to figure out like humidity control. What does a Roland printer, is there a window of humidity that you need to be in? You talk about Arizona. I'm also going to be in the cold. What's optimum for a Roland printer?
Yeah, it's going to be, for other Roland printers, it's different. But for the DTF device, it's a little bit tighter than others. You're going to want to be somewhere in the range of above 60% humidity, and you're not going to want to get higher than probably 75% humidity.
Rainforesty.
Yeah, that's where I've seen the most reliability. That's where we try to keep ours running as much as possible. And like I said, when you're able to do that, you're able to keep the machine running like a Roland device is expected to. And even when you do have problems, though, so you're going to encounter some problems during this. And the funny part is that our head of service and Michelle happened to be in the hallway about 15 minutes before we started the recording session here. And what do you think that we were talking about in the hallway is how do we help and make sure that, while Steve's moving from place to place, that we're able to give them a hand if something does go wrong, right? We have technicians all over the country and things like that. But I can't have a technician just sitting on site all the time. So I'm like, all right, we're going to have to know where they're going, and we're going to have to say, all right, just in case, guys, make sure that we because we want this to be successful. Just like you do. And it's new to you and it's new to us. So there's an opportunity for me to learn. Your first stop or two, I mean, if you'll have me, I'll probably, want to go fly out there, join with you guys, make sure that the printer's working the way that it's supposed to. And the experience is as positive for everybody as possible. And then we all get to learn something. And then you got the Roland guy there to make the bat call if I need to get something done, if something breaks or goes wrong.
Yeah. What we're going to try and do is have our artists in the press box of an arena designing for that game, like some crazy viral event. And we're going to try and get it on press right when the game ends so that we can just like, we can kind of show the world like, oh, what is real hot market? So like we plan on things probably going wrong, and they probably will. And I think when I propose this to you guys, you're like, who's this crazy kook and why are we talking to him? But my theory was, if we can put this in a trailer and take it around the country and successfully show the printing industry that this thing rocks, it's such an easy no-brainer to put it in your shop, because we're all, my friends in the printing industry are scared of DTF because they're like, what paperweight am I buying and how many people am I going to have to hire to fix stuff? And like, no, I don't want to mess with that. I'll just order transfers. So it is, and we are going to be building it. We're building the trailer publicly. So we're going to be like documenting it. So I hope people can follow along, and I'm confident in it because I'm confident in you guys. But this is going to be quite the experience. And I don't know.
I'm excited for the challenge. I'm excited for what you guys have going on. I've talked about it throughout the office here. It's not something that everybody really knows is going to happen. It's going to be, we've kind of, as marketing and product management, we've kind of kept this into our little world here for right now. But, come impressions, when you and I are sitting up and Adrian is talking about us, I think everybody's going to realize exactly, how this kind of partnership is going to be. And like I said, I would love to be on site for one of the events to make sure everything goes well, and a learning experience, and maybe be able to make sure that stop number 2 and stop number 3 go even better than stop number 1 goes. Yeah.
What's crazy is once we started announcing it, the biggest names in college were like, come here. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And so we're going to be at UConn. They've got one of the best men's and women's programs, and they're going to put us right outside the stadium for 4 or 5 days. We're going to set up this whole merch experience. And people have asked me, like, why wouldn't you just order transfers? Well, that's not fun. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
what's the fun in that?
What's the point in that? And actually, when I went to the US Open a couple of years ago, I saw, I don't know who was doing it, there were DTF machines on site. I think they were Roland's. They were the little guys.
And I'm like, little guys. There's a whole bank. There's a whole bank of them there.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, we need to invent them. We need to help push the next iteration of this industry forward. And that might mean these machines getting closer, because our friends at Family Industries, they'll bring embroidery machines out, laser engravers, screen printing. We've seen all the live activations, but it's like, okay, let's crank this up a notch. And we're going to do it on the main stage, and we might look like idiots.
But I don't think that's going to be the case. And you mentioned the US Open, and, I can't go into too much detail of who's doing it, but it very high end. And it was very successful, so successful that they nearly doubled the amount of machines and went back the next year. Those machines aren't sitting idle while the US Open isn't happening. They're doing other events on a smaller scale. Those machines go to other places. But that was a trial and error too, right? We had some challenges to make sure that worked. And even though they ended up in a controlled environment, it was kind of a big room, and they did not use automated shakers because they wanted to be so on the fly where they could do 1 or 2 and not have to cut something off the roll. So they were hand powdering out of, using like the turkey baking pan, fill the turkey baking pan with powder, and they would literally hand shake and powder off, because they wanted to be able to do 1 and 2 onesies and twosies as far as custom goes. And, that was their setup. But now you're going to have one machine that we have to control, and they had, let's say, 15 machines. Smaller, but we had to make sure that 15 machines stay running. Maybe sometimes only 13 were running, but, at first, but we had to figure out a way to keep all those machines running all the time. So like you said, there's going to be some challenges, and it's not going to be pull it out of the box and everything's going to work perfect. But I think that all those challenges are things that we could overcome and really make it.
Yeah. I had to buy, because we're going to put 2 heat presses, 1 hat press, the DTF machine, the DTF dryer, and my electrician was going through, and he's like, you're going to need a 16,000 watt generator inverter. So I have to go pick that up from Home Depot. It's $5,000, but it's got to be, but the nice part is it's only 110. And so we're going to have to figure out power, HVAC, humidity control, but it'll be fun. So anyone who's coming to Long Beach, Adrian, myself, and Daniel will be on a panel, and I believe the panel is on Friday. We're going to be talking a little bit about this. So, Roland has been on the map for a while, and it's exciting to see them making a play into DTF. I'm fortunate for you guys for taking a risk on us, and hopefully this will be an exciting adventure. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. We're looking forward to the partnership as well, and looking to see how this crazy adventure turns into. I know it will turn into something else in a year from now too. I don't think it's something that we would say. I can feel that it's going to be successful. Same thing, like I said, from one year at the US Open to the next, we were able to make some changes and make it even more successful for those guys. And I think that we can do the same thing with Campus Inc. and you guys. So looking forward to the panel and impressions, looking forward to meeting you face to face, and anybody that's going to join us at Impressions, looking forward to seeing you guys there too, and come pick my brain on all things DTF and learn how much money you're leaving on the table. If you're still outsourcing transfers, 500 or 1,000 transfers every week, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and I can tell you exactly how much money that is. So
love it. Thank you so much for joining us. Print Hustlers is another episode of the Print Hustlers podcast. We'll see you all next week.
See you guys.
Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully that was informative. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy all the stuff we're putting out, it's really helpful. We love to just be able to see it. That means that we're doing a good job. To subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.